Well, good day, class. Today I'm going to talk about innovating process, and I'm going to give an example from Nike product process evolution. And I hope it's one you'll enjoy. I enjoyed experiencing it over the last 20 years or so of my career. So when we look at Nike in the mid-1990s, I know that was a long time ago, they were the best in the athletic footwear industry and by all accounts still hold that designation. But their product process was about an 18-month process. Let me see if I can explain in brief. Nike looks at, from a footwear standpoint, Nike in the 1990s looked at 4 seasons in the year, divided the year into 4 parts, and then also looked at sport categories. Its product line arranged by sport categories. So running product, basketball product, football product, and so on. And so each of those sport categories had teams who would put together for each season of the year a line plan. The line plan would basically describe products that meet consumer needs in that sport category at particular price points. Those product briefs then would flow to designers and developers who would be assigned to different ones of those product briefs to begin to bring those ideas to life. So the designer would begin to sketch, well, what would it look like? What kind of colors? What kind of shapes? What kind of look? And the developer would be looking at what kinds of materials, what kinds of manufacturing processes will be needed in order to make this product at the margin targets for that particular product brief, so that it can be sold at that price point in the marketplace. Once those recipes, if you will, for the shoe and pictures of what it would look like and so forth, and maybe even some samples made up, were done, that would move to the factories to work on commercializing what's it going to take to mass produce this in multiple sizes and so forth at the volume we're predicting. And then once the manufacturing orders would be placed at the factory and manufacturing would be done, and then those shoes would ship from the factory off to warehouses and retail stores and eventually end up on your feet and my feet. So what's left out of that is the selling process. So in the 80s, Nike pioneered a program, very innovative, called the Futures Program, where they approached retailers like Foot Locker, for example, and said, hey, we're designing and developing a shoe. We're going to have it ready to deliver to you in about 9 months. Can we persuade you to place an order for so many thousand pairs now, 9 months before you're going to get them? And the incentive was usually discounts and those kinds of things. So that enabled Nike over time to then track and realize if we can sell futures orders for a shoe that we actually haven't even really made yet. Let's say we were able to sell 60,000 pairs of futures orders. We learned over time that once the shoe was starting to come together and we got closer to that delivery, we could sell probably another 40,000 pair in what were known as at-once orders. So futures orders would be about 60, at-once orders would be about 40% of what the total volume would end up being of the shoes. This allowed Nike to do forecasting, planning, scheduling, capacity management, and so forth, not with a 9-month, rolling 9-month future view. So that was very good for the times. But around the end of the 90s, Phil Knight realized mass customization is a concept that's coming. And in the athletic footwear business, no one was doing it. But he wanted Nike to be the first to sell customized product direct to consumers on the internet. And so that was the challenge at the end of the 90s. And I was blessed to be on the team that made that happen in the first place. We met the timeline that Phil gave us, and we were able to do it. We knew that we were doing a lot of things that wouldn't scale at the time we put it in place, but we did make it out there and be the first in the marketplace to do it. So the goal, the program was called Nike ID, and the big vision was to eventually have mass customization. we knew the road to mass customization was to have some customization to begin with. But the goal of Nike ID was that consumers would design their custom shoes online. The shoes order, once they placed the order, would go direct to the factory. The factory would make it, ship it, and deliver it to the consumer within 14 days. So essentially, that 18-month process had to go. It had to become a 14-day process, which is a little, mind-boggling. Now, the 18-month process was still there. It was still there for the traditional supply chain, the traditional way of doing things, developing a line for the quarter, for the category, selling that in futures to retailers 9 months in advance, and taking all that time to do all those things to deliver all those massive amounts of shoes. But slowly we were beginning to shape the marketplace of the future, which today online buying is much more commonplace. So a couple of the key enablers that allowed Nike ID program to be successful was that we realized we had to develop and commercialize platforms on which consumers could then choose customization. And our inspiration actually in the program was the game Mr. Potato Head. So that's a child's game that's like a plastic potato that has all these holes in it all over the place. And then in the kit comes a whole lot of things that go on a head, like eyes and ears and nose and mouth and lips and mustaches and hats and hair and all kinds of varieties of those. All were made so that they could go any place in any hole on the potato, allowing the customer in this case to make infinite number of varieties of Mr. Potato Heads to their heart's content. So that was our idea. Create a platform like the potato, create a shoe that was like a platform we knew we could make with interchangeable parts that we knew would work together in any combination. Then let the consumer on the internet play with those combinations to create infinite numbers of unique shoes. Send that recipe, once they finalize their order, send that recipe to the plant and make it. And in order for the plant to be able to do that, they were used to getting orders to make a whole bunch of the same shoe, same color, same, characteristics, same materials. Now they were going to get an order of one pair that was essentially unique within a set of parameters. So we had to create a more flexible manufacturing process. We had to get rid of a lot of non-value adding activities that were taking up time. Material would come in the plant and be there for a month before it would leave. We needed it to be there for a couple of days. By 2008, when I left Vietnam, we were able to process Nike ID orders every day and have them ready to ship the next day. But that didn't come overnight. That came from an ongoing process of improving the process and challenging the process to do more than what was required immediately, looking to the future of mass customization. And now I read in the paper that Nike's current goal is to cut their big bulk product process in half. Well, some takeaways. Lean is the right thing to do. Kaizen is the method. Everybody every day making small changes, but that takes time. You're not going to go from 18 months to 14 days just by deciding to start a Kaizen or Lean program tomorrow. An improvement culture is an adaptable culture. So once we started creating the view in the factory that we could do things differently and differently and differently and do things we had never done before, then people believed, of course we can do that. We can respond to an order from a consumer, unique order for one pair that's unique, and we can make it, and we can ship it, and we can make money, which wouldn't have been believed prior to our Lean movement. Adaptation enables a disruptive innovation. So Nike got there first, disrupted the market, put a lot of the competitors on their heels back then about, how are we going to do this? And the big takeaway for me is that today's game changer is actually born from operational excellence and the mindset of continuous improvement that was born years ago. So if we want to be ready for the challenges of tomorrow, of the next 5 years, we have to begin today to challenge our current processes.